Welcome back to GlobeTrotting. If you're new, subscribe to the channel as I push for 60,000. When most aircraft are retired, there's immediate talk of how can these planes still be utilised in some form, and it's how the idea really of a workhorse has become such a prominent title. When one era ends for an aircraft at a company, typically there is room for it to continue flying with another, in need of, say, its capabilities in a second-hand market. This could be for, say, niche passenger flights, smaller airlines, freight conversions, and more. But the world's largest passenger plane hasn't necessarily had the same fate, more so being an aircraft that has enjoyed its stay with an operator and then gone on to be scrapped. Not so much, say, experiencing a prolonged stay in the industry through a second or third operator. It is that lack of a second-hand market that has been one of the key focal points when discussing the story of the aircraft and its legacy. What an excellent aircraft. It is equally magnificent to see flying through the sky today, but one that is certainly in a niche part of our industry. It's funny, a niche aircraft, but also the world's largest passenger plane and something that is going to stand out like a sore thumb. But that is where the focus begins on why A380s are being scrapped rather than their life continuing. When Airbus launched the aircraft, they had high hopes for it, believing it would be a huge commercial hit, and while its legacy will be everlasting, primarily spurred on by just Emirates committing to over 100 units. Otherwise, customers here and there dipped into the program, but it was nothing, say, outlandish. Not all airlines, remember, could fly the plane. From funds to routes to the capabilities at their home airport to handle an aircraft of that size. And even if they could bring it on, they were hardly going to bring on 50. Again, unless you were Emirates. As a result, when airlines began retiring A380s, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone to take them on. It wasn't a 757, 767 or A330, not even an A340, which has enjoyed a significant second life with sanctioned airlines around the world that have relied on its high capacity to serve their network thanks to their own inability to get newer aircraft. You can see with that A340 example that it really is niche. But the A380, well, who would take the jets up? Was there ever an interest in the second-hand market? Well, actually, at times, yes. The only true example has been the short stay of an A380 with High Fly. This, a leading company within our industry that does a lot of work behind the scenes, and it notably completed a stint then with Norwegian on a lease during that Trent 1000 crisis on the 787. Suffice to say, that A380 operation was a disaster, and there's a reason the type no longer exists within the High Fly portfolio. At one point as well, British Airways examined taking on further A380s on the cheap with a view of leveraging the capacity and youthful nature to boost their long-haul flying, but ultimately they would pass. Away from that, you've got Global Airlines, a prospective startup that wants to only fly Airbus A380s out of London. That remains an unproven company that seems more like a far-fetched virtual dream than a successful business model. So to answer the earlier question, no one really was interested in a second-hand market, and the one example we saw didn't entirely work out to plan. Furthermore, as airlines begin pivoting more and more to fuel-efficient planes that just so happen to be twin-engined, the A380 will continue to see its role diminish, and while it is enjoying a comeback at the moment, its long-term prospects are not going to be the same as, say, a Dreamliner. So as a result, these jets heading to the scrapyard are likely to be the best possible alternative. While that is incredibly unfortunate, it must be said that there are still opportunities for scrapped A380s to actually be useful, as the global fleet for this aircraft sees its units diminish, and some companies such as Emirates and Qantas have committed to flying the aircraft well into the next few decades. They'll need to rely on key spare parts, as there will be a shortage, and they may look to other airline customers who are retiring these planes for parts, likely heading again for these units to be torn apart in a strategic manner to give parts to airlines. What else to consider is the role of scrapping in the fact that there's no real conversion available for the jet, where nowadays 777s are, say, beginning to be converted. They've enjoyed a fantastic life as a passenger aircraft, and now they're going to serve the market well as a converted freighter. But the A380 doesn't have a P2F conversion available, and who would even take this on, as we're seeing the new era of freight operations focus again on that keyword, efficiency. Not quite really what an A380F would be. Not only would it cost an abundance of money to make the A380 fit for cargo in its current state, but it's incredibly unfavourable as a conversion from just a load standpoint compared to counterparts. It's unfortunate that A380s are being scrapped. In the circle of life, ultimately the units that have headed to the scrapyard are far younger than, say, other aircraft types that have, say, been able to survive for 30 plus years. So in terms of its longevity, well, the aircraft doesn't really have that. The scrapping will continue as more and more airlines, despite a resurgence, eventually make way for next-gen planes as supply difficulties ease. You will have a few airlines that will retain the aircraft for quite some time, again pointing towards Emirates and Qantas, so enjoy them when they're still around. That's all I'll say. Thank you very much for watching, take care, be safe, and I'll see you in a couple of days for more aviation analysis right here on GlobeTrotting.